In the heart of Lagos, where the city never sleeps and dreams are forged through struggle, lived a determined boy named Chimezie. The eldest and only son in his family, he bore the weight of responsibility far too soon. At just 15, his mother, his family's pillar, passed away, leaving behind his twin 6-year-old sisters, Amaka and Amara. Their father, lost in his own failures, spent his days drowning in alcohol at dirty local bars, unconcerned about the children who depended on him. Survival became Chimezie's sole mission. He abandoned school and took on menial jobs to ensure his sisters remained in theirs, working tirelessly to cover their basic needs. At 17, fate nudged him forward when he secured a position as a sales boy at Chijioke and Sons Appliances. Though it was just a sales boy position, Chimezie transformed it into an opportunity. His charm was like sugarcane to the customers, sweet and irresistible. No customer entered Chijioke and Sons and left empty-handed. Even if they had no initial intent to buy, they had left the shop with at least 1,000 naira hand fan. Oga Chijioke, the shop's owner, soon noticed Chimezie's gifts for persuasion and rewarded him with promotion to the sales manager. Step by step, Chimezie climbed higher. He saved diligently, determined to create his own path. Eventually, he established his own shop, importing wholesale appliances from neighboring countries. The business flourished. In a blink of an eye, warehouses sprouted under his name, with bulk imports from China, and he began supplying his appliances to renowned companies across Nigeria. Money ceased to be a struggle. Wealth followed him effortlessly. Chimezie's empire expanded beyond appliances to luxury 5-star hotels and fine dining restaurants, solidifying his status as a business tycoon. Chimezie's grit, hard work, and patience to succeed had set him up for a lifetime of success. He was so proud of what he had made for himself, bringing generational wealth to his bloodline. Because he was so focused on building his empire and managing his businesses, he never entertained any serious relationships. He was now 36 and was looking for a wife to settle down. During his occasional visits to his hometown, Umuoma, he frequented a small famous restaurant at the village square owned by a widowed woman named Mama Nkechi. Her meals were so tasty and flavorful, always served with fresh and the sweetest palm wine. She was known specifically for her delicious ofe onugbo soup and delectable nkwobi. Customers flocked her restaurant, eager to savor her meals, barely pausing before diving in. And one of those customers was Chimezie. Mama Nkechi knew opportunity when she saw it. Each time Chimezie visited, she ensured that her daughter, Adaobi, was the one to serve him, strategically positioning Adaobi to captivate him with her charm. Chimezie quickly caught on her cue and became smitten with Adaobi. She was strikingly beautiful, her smile warm, her heart kind, and her spirit meek. She possessed a quiet innocence and was naive and gullible. She was exactly the kind of woman Chimezie would love to marry. Not all those wild-eyed city girls who would pretend to love him and cheat on him behind his back while demanding that he pays them monthly allowance. I need money for skincare. I need money for shopping, money for new wig, money for spa, money for vacation. I need a new Benz. Ha! No! He did not work all his life for one year woman who had nothing to offer but her childbearing womb to extort him of his money. To Chimezie, Adaobi was the perfect candidate for a wife. That was enough for him to approach Mama Nkechi with his intentions. Mama Nkechi was ecstatic that her plan had worked. Adaobi had charmed Chimezie, and wealth would soon pour into their lives. As proof of his commitment, Chimezie showered her with gifts, opened a restaurant for her, and even relocated the family into a brand new home. Overnight, Nkechi transformed from a struggling and pauper village widow into Nne Wunye billionaire, as she imposed, referred to as the mother-in-law of a wealthy man. Her days of struggles were over. Her days of cooking were over. She even hired workers to her restaurant and spent her time lodging, eating, drinking, and counting money. To her, Chimezie was godsend. Adaobi, however, felt differently. She did not love Chimezie. Her mother insisted he was a blessing, yet Adaobi couldn't shake the feeling that he was using their poverty as leverage to claim her. What would an old man like him want with a young girl like her? What if he was like those men in the movies, a cultist who would sacrifice her for money rituals? Ah, God forbid, she whispered to herself, shivering. She had to tell her mother. Petrionu dear, Petrionu! Nkechi shouted, cutting off Adaobi's protest. Don't let anybody hear this, oh. Don't even say it again. So you like suffering, eh? You love suffering so much that God has finally shown his face on our family by bringing a responsible man with wealth to marry you and change our destinies for life. And here you are, opening this your big mouth like a pot of soup and spewing out rubbish. What if he's a ritualist? Nkechi mimicked, her eyes rolling in frustration. If I hear this foolishness again, I will kill you with my bare hands. She threatened and stormed out. Adaobi sat in silence, fear gripping her. Her mother had completely dismissed her concerns. Money had blinded her. Her mother's greed, eating her up like fungus on a big toe. Was her own happiness worth less than money? If wealth meant more to her mother than her life, she was already doomed. She was indeed dead meat to Chimezie. Blinded by greed, Mama Nkechi did not hesitate to accept Chimezie's marriage proposal to Adaobi. The wedding was a grand affair, the largest traditional ceremony in the entire city, making its headlines in local gossip blogs and Instagram pages. Held at Chimezie's lavish mansion, the entire town turned up, reveling in the extravagance. Yet, whispers spread like wildfire. Some mocked Nkechi, calling her a shameless woman for trading her daughter for riches. Others murmured about Chimezie, suggesting he was indeed a ritualist who would eventually sacrifice Adaobi. Some pitied the young bride, while others dreamed aloud, wishing a wealthy man would show interest in their own daughters. A few even hoped Chimezie would take a second wife, ready to offer their girls without hesitation. As Adaobi stood beside him, adorned in bridal attire, she felt the weight of her faith settle in The drums echoed through the night. The feast continued, and the villagers danced in celebration. But in Adaobi's heart, there was no music. Adaobi struggled to settle into marriage, and Chimezie's sisters did not make it any better. Whenever they came visiting, Amaka and Amara treated Adaobi like a glorified maid, backing others like drilled sergeants with a superiority complex. Bush girl, go and get me breakfast. Bush girl, come and wash my clothes. Bush girl, come and massage my feet, Joe. They didn't like her. To them, she wasn't good enough for their brother. So they crowned her with the name Bush girl like it was a title of disgrace. Adaobi was naive and gentle. She didn't protest. She smiled, obeyed, and believed that that was what a good wife was meant to do. But deep inside, something was changing. Slowly but surely, a quiet strength began to grow. She started to see clearly the lack of gratitude, the spiteful undertones in their voices. She kept smiling, but now, with eyes wide open, she stood a little taller, took longer to respond, and began to ask herself if marriage should really feel like a lifetime sentence. Chimezie, on the other hand, acted like nothing was wrong. He didn't scold his sisters or ask Adaobi how she felt. Maybe because there was no love there to begin with. Adaobi hadn't been chosen. She had been bought, sold off like a cow at the market, exchanged for bride price, and a promise for a better life for her family. After secondary school, Adaobi was anticipating her next step, university. She stood by the doorway of the smoky kitchen, fanning herself with the corner of her wrapper as she said, Mama, I've been thinking. I am very passionate about law and becoming a voice to the voiceless. So, I want to become a lawyer. Adaobi said with an enthusiastic tone. Mama Nkechi didn't even flinch. She kept stirring the pot of pepper soup like she was boiling someone's bad decisions inside it. Lawyer kwa, she scoffed and stared at Adaobi like she just said she wanted to marry a ghost. With which money? No, they see how I am struggling to even finish Chizoba's school fees. I never buy Adeze her new uniform. Talk less of all those your expensive WAEC books where I still dey pay for in bits. And you dey here dey talk say you wan wear black coat, dey shout my lord up and down. Adaobi whined and answered. But mama, your business is doing really well. And if I become a lawyer, I will take us all out of this place and give us a better life. Mama Nkechi was focused on the pot, sprinkling salt and maggi like she was performing sacrifice. She even added more pepper to the pot, enough to question if it was meant for her enemy's eyes. She acted like Adaobi's voice was background noise from NTA. There, but not important. She hummed, took a long taste from the spoon, smacked her lips, then pointed it at Adaobi like a sword. Do I look like a rich widow from Nollywood to you? So the secondary school where you just finish, I never try, eh? Since primary 3 where your papa die, only me dey pay your school fees, feed you, clothe you, buy textbooks, using this my small cooking business. Or are you forgetting that you have siblings? Eh? Josepha the dreamer. She burst out laughing the way aunties do when a small girl says she wants to marry for love. Then she finally dropped the bomb. You go shall start saving for the school fees from the salary you go collect from Madam Chinere. Tomorrow morning sharp, we will go there and meet her so she can teach you better handwork. Handwork wey go really help you hustle well for this life, she advised. Yes, it was a good advice. but it landed in Adobe's chest like poison wrapped in a proverb. It wasn't support, it was just another way of her mother saying she was ungrateful. Adobe stood there, lips tight, wondering how a mother could be so loud in criticism and hate the birth of a dream that could utterly change their lives. So the following day, Mankechi dragged Adobe to Madame Chinere's shop. The largest tailoring shop in the village stood like a landmark, bustling, busy, and full of color. Beautiful pieces of clothing were sewn there, the kind that made people from neighboring villages travel down just to get measured. And as fate would have it, Adaobi found herself apprenticed under Madame Chinere, the iron-lipped owner known for her sharp tongue and even sharper business sense. From the very start, Adaobi was the target of side eyes and snide remarks from the older employees. They mocked her quiet nature and sent her on endless errands. But Adaobi didn't flinch. She was focused, soaking in the craft like sponge to water. Within her first week, she could measure and cut coats with accuracy. By the third week, her stitching was clean, straight, and perfect. In just 3 months, she had become one of Madame Chinere's best tailors. But credit, that was scarce like original lace in Onisha market. Madame Chinere, wicked in a polished, optimistic kind of way, never once praised her. Instead, she worked Adobe like a rented machine. More clothes, less pay, zero acknowledgement. Adobe, ever hopeful, held on the belief that one day all her effort would be rewarded. That maybe, just maybe, hard work would speak louder than favoritism. But in that shop, sweat did not speak, only power did. Mama Nkechi saw the injustice for what it was. This woman is using you, she said bluntly, watching Adobe slump onto the couch like a woman in labor, her back aching, her hands stained with chalk and thread, and her eyes heavy with exhaustion. You have to stop going there, Mankechi said, arms folded across her chest. Adobe sat up slowly. But Mama, who else am I going to work for? Mama Nkechi didn't miss a bit. You can come and work with me. In like 4 months, we will save and buy your own machine. You can even open a small place close to my shop. Customers, they pass there like water. Adobe blinked, stunned for a moment. Then her heart leaped with joy, so fast it nearly knocked the tiredness out of her body. For the first time in a long time, someone, her own mother, believed in her ability. She knew how much people were willing to pay to have their clothes made. She knew her skill. In fact, she was one of the best under Madame Chinere. Customers had already started asking her by name. If she had her own space, ha, loyal customers would follow her like ants to sugar. Once they taste quality, they always come back. And just like that, a new hope lit inside her chest, bright, bold, and almost scary. Unfortunately, the day Chimezie proposed marriage to her mother, Adobe's hopes and dreams gave up its last breath, and nobody mourned it except her. You are now a married woman. You have no dreams except the ones your husband has for you, Mama Nkechi said, tying her wrapper tightly around her waist like she was sealing a decree. He's your God now, and as a good wife, you must protect your home as a hen guides her eggs. Listen to your husband and obey him. She straightened up and continued, her tone sharp. You don't have to worry about money anymore. Your husband can provide more than enough. Henceforth, no more sewing. Adobe looked up. Her brows furrowed, her lips parting as if to speak, but Mama Nkechi caught the expression. What is it? She snapped. Why are you looking at me like that? Mama, Adobe said carefully, her gaze lowered as her hands fiddled with her wrapper. I don't sew for money. You know me too well. You know how passionate I am about designing pieces. Why should I give it all up just because I am married to a man? Adobe said, twisting her face in protest. Mama Nkechi immediately swatted Adobe's arm. Pechionu! Pechionu! Stupid girl! Stupid girl! Your husband is not just a man. Oh. Hey! This man you talk about can buy the whole of this village plus half of the city and change will be left. That is why I am preparing you for him. Mentally, emotionally, physically, dreamically, everything that can tally. Because men of his caliber deserves and desires the best. And since he has chosen you, you need to prepare. You need to become the best. She jabbed her finger in Adobe's face. See, if you go there and I hear any negative talk about you, that you have disobeyed your husband or that you have done this, you have done that, I will take the fastest bus to his house and kill you with my bare hands. I brought you into this world, though, and I can take you out of it. Her voice cracked with finality. That man you see there is your savior, my savior, our savior out of poverty. This nonsense passion you speak about, what opportunities has it brought to you? Eh? If not made you all the more delusional and branded you as Josepha the dreamer. Mama Nkechi gestured dramatically, pressing her thumb and forefinger together. Just small mistake like this, and you would die untimely in my hands. Adobe's heart shattered like calabash dropped on concrete, beyond repair, shattered with grief, defeat, and helplessness. What kind of mother offers her own daughter like a ram for village sacrifice? Anyone else but her own blood. Yet here she was, betrayed by the very womb that bore her. A mother who counted bride price in naira signs and measured love in bags of rice. She knew she was walking straight into a lion's den. But how do you run when your legs are tied with cultural expectations? Now, she was married to a man who saw her as a house help with benefits. Still, inside the silence, she clutched the last piece of herself like a hidden wrapper tucked under the bed. In secret, she sketched designs with fingers that refused to forget who she was. She created an anonymous Instagram page with the phone Chimezie had bought for her. Her ideas flew freely like kites in Hamatan breeze. She fed on YouTube videos for more insights and inspiration, studying fashion illustrations and trendy styles. It was her own kind of rebellion, a small fire under the pot of oppression. Quiet, determined, and one day it will boil over. A few months had passed when Adobe realized the seed had taken root. She was pregnant. The news hit her like Hamatan breeze, dry joy mixed with quiet fear. Amaka and Amara, those in-law hyenas, no longer had the audacity to back orders whenever they visited. Even Chimezie, the husband that carried ego like Abada, suddenly hired maids to help with house chores. But no one could carry the true weight, the kind growing inside her. Her body began to change. One minute she was craving okra and suya, and the next she was crying over garden eggs. Adaobi added weight like akara, soaked in oil. And morning sickness, it came with his siblings. Fever, migraine, bloodshot eyes, swollen legs. Her nose swelled up like tangerines, signaling she was breeding for two. Some nights, she would gasp for air, clutching her chest like a woman under spiritual attack. Adobe would scream for her husband, cry like a goat caught in the rain. Dimoma! Dimoma! I I can't breathe oh. Please come and take me to the hospital. But which husband? That one that was always missing, leaving her in the care of the maid and the driver. Chimezie was always out at night, partying like a Lagos big boy, popularly known as Mazi Fonts. It was always the driver that often rushed her to the hospital. Hmm, this kind marriage wey na driver dey play husband role. Hey! Sometimes, as she lay in the hospital bed, some thoughts would crawl into her mind like a lizard through a crack. What if this man wants to use me and my baby for ritual? Look at the way he's behaving. Ha! Fear no be here oh. These thoughts wrapped itself around her chest like a tight wrapper, choking her silently. She called on Mama Nkechi, begged her to come and teach her small, small things about pregnancy, how to sit, what to eat, what dreams to ignore. But even then, Adaobi said nothing about her fears. Not to Mama Nkechi, not even to Chinonso, her closest friend. She bottled it like Zobo in recycled plastic. Instead, she prayed quietly, fiercely every night. Every moment she was alone, she prayed for her baby, prayed for herself, for strength, for survival. Because in that house, it was only God that knew the full story. In her ninth month, Adaobi gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. Chimezie named her Ifuru, meaning flower. But the birth of this delicate joy nearly buried her mother. The delivery was a battlefield. Adaobi suffered a fourth degree perineal tear that felt like her body was being split in half. She bled so much the nurses began to whisper. The doctor's face was tight like someone gambling with God. They barely saved her. And Chimezie, he strolled into the hospital only after the baby had arrived. His first words, "The baby is fine, Abi?" he asked the doctor, voice dry and cold. "Good. Now go in there and fix her up." Not a word to Adaobi, not even a look. The man behaved like he had just sent a cow to slaughter and was only back to collect the meat. Adaobi recovered slowly, her stitches tugging with every moment. But Mama Nkechi came for Omugo like a woman on a mission, backing orders, boiling water, and tying wrapper like battle gear. She took over baby duties, while Adaobi lay in bed, healing and watching her stomach slowly deflate. When Mama Nkechi finally returned to the village, Adaobi was strong enough to carry Ifuro herself. And with every feeding, every lullaby, she continued her quiet rebellion. At night, while the baby slept, she designed dresses in dim light, her pencil dancing on paper like it was drawing her back to life. Her secret Instagram page had begun to bloom. Strangers from places she had never been were liking, sharing, and asking for more. What started as a whisper of defiance was slowly becoming a voice. Amaka and Amara visited now and then, still consistent in their ministry of hatred. Their mouths never rested. Adobe, you didn't comb your hair today. This house is always somehow safe. You are lucky if Ro did not inherit your village face. But somehow, their venom missed the baby. They doted on Ifuro like she was made of gold, cooing and snapping pictures while throwing insults at her mother like side dishes. Adobe took it quietly. She had no strength for war, only for survival. However, consumed by her own thoughts and emotions, she had been distracting herself to fill a void that sang a beautiful rhythm of what could have been. Motherhood was such a beautiful thing, a wonderful joy to bring life into this earth. But it was not the right time for Adobe. It was not the right time for her to feel the joy of holding her baby in her hands. Not like this. Not with a man she didn't love. Not in a house that felt more like prison than a home. She had been sold into a better life, and now she was leaving the recept. Maybe, she thought, maybe I would have married someone I loved. Started life in a small city. Started small. Waited until we could afford our own love children. To Adobe, money wasn't everything. In fact, it was nothing. Nothing that could buy happiness. Nothing that could replace genuine love. All it ever bought was security and fame. And it was a gold paint over a rusted cage. Throughout her pregnancy, she felt utterly alone. Now that Ifuro was here, she somehow felt even lonelier. There was no one she could speak to, not her mother she couldn't trust, the one who was the reason she is here in the first place. She could confide in Chinonso, her very good friend, but she was knee deep in her own problems, chasing survival like everyone else. Adobe was still the same small girl from the village, dreaming of a better life, but not at the cost of her happiness, not from another man's pocket. She wanted to build with her hands, sweat for it, earn it, own it. But here she was in Chimezie's world, a man who bought her dreams and traded them for silence. A man who treated her like a bargain, not a bride. Her body, her innocence, her youth, her future, all paid for. One evening, when the baby had finally slept and the crickets outside filled the silence, Adobe picked up her phone and sent Chinonso a message. Nonso, how are you? How was work today? I was just checking up on you. Oh. Plus, it's been long since I've seen your beautiful face. You just get one small talk where I want talk. Oh. You get small talk within my chest. When will you come to visit again? She didn't expect a quick reply, but a few hours later, Chinonso responded. Ah, Ada, sorry, oh, I just saw this. I've been busy. I'll come over this weekend, I promise. Just hold on small, okay? By Saturday afternoon, Chinonso showed up, looking a bit worn out. Her slippers were dusty. One side of her weave had started to freeze from the sun, and in her hand was a black nylon bag filled with mangoes and cabin biscuits. Adobe opened the door with baby Ifuro in her arms, surprised but quietly relieved. Ah, Nonso, you came. Her voice was soft. I had to now. You didn't sound like yourself. Your message worried me, Chinonso said, stepping in. How you dey? My sister we dey manage oh, Adobe replied with a tired smile, ushering her in. And my pikin? Nonso asked, grinning as she bent toward Ifuro. She tickled the baby's tiny feet. See cheeks. You don't dey feed her beans, abi? Adobe laughed. Really laughed. For the first time in days. Ha! This one a breast milk addict though. Good girl. Chinonso smiled as she collapsed into the couch. So how far? How is everything? How is the Oga? She lowered her voice and glanced upstairs like he might appear from the ceiling. Adobe sat beside her, adjusting her wrapper as she breastfed. That one, he's not around no, as usual. But her smile faded. Everything just feels heavy. It's like I'm floating in someone else's life. Chinonso studied her face. Ada, are you okay? Adobe paused. Her fingers traced the edge of her wrapper, eyes downcast. I feel like I'm drowning, Nonso. Quietly, I'm smiling outside, but inside it's like I can't breathe. Nonso leaned forward, elbows on her knees. Talk to me. What's really going on? Adobe shook her head slightly, tears filling her eyes. I don't like it here, she whispered. I know, Nonso said gently. I love you, Furo. Motherhood is something. It's something beautiful. But I was not ready. I was not supposed to be here. You know I wanted to become a lawyer. Then there was no money for school fees. Mama pushed me into sewing. She promised to get me a machine and help me start something small. That gave me hope, Chinonso. It gave me hope. The kind that grows roots. But being married to this man, living this kind of life, it's crushing me. This wasn't the future I planned. And now look at me. I don't even know the way out. Chinonso reached out and held her hand firmly. Ada, look at me. Your mother may have failed you. Life may have bent your dreams. But this is not your end. This is not the ending. I know it feels like a nightmare, but God hasn't left you. Neither have I. We will walk through this together, okay? You're not alone. Adobe's lips trembled. The tears came freely now. Thank you, Nonso, she whispered between her sobs. They sat in silence, holding hands, just breathing. The baby shifted in Adobe's arms, then yawned. Chinonso smiled, dabbing her French cheek with her fingers. See us crying like Yoruba movie aunties. Abeg, wipe your eyes before soundtrack will start playing. No, Adobe chuckled through her tears. I bought mangoes and cabin biscuito. I know say you never get strength to waka go market. Plus, Ifuro is too small to leave her in the care of the maid. And mango is your weakness, you know. Adobe smiled, her heart warming. You're so thoughtful. Thank you, Chi. I don't know what I would have done without you. You're such a good friend. For nothing, my sister. You're welcome, Jari. Chinonso leaned back, looked at her. By the way, your Instagram page they blow. People are liking, commenting, sharing. Your designs they enter eye. Adobe smile, widened. Yes, so it's like small hope is returning. Some clients even message me, asking me if I could sell my designs to them. You see, we are getting there. Soft, soft, soft but steady. God no dey rush, but him no dey fail oh. After a moment, Adobe asked, how your business dey go? Hmm. My sister, we dey push oh. Market no dey easy, but we dey stubborn. They fell into an easy rhythm, catching up on everything. Work, gossip, old classmates who got fat, who married who. Adobe laughed. She really laughed. Not the fake I am okay laugh she had been using for months. That night, she slept like a baby. Her steps became lighter. She hummed songs while cleaning. Hope, like a small candle, had been lit again. And this time, she vowed Ifuro would never live the life she was fighting to escape. It hadn't even been 5 months since Adobe pushed out their daughter, Ifuro, tore her body and stitched her soul back together. When life served her breakfast in 4K, one harmless scroll on the socials, and there he was, Chimezie, her beloved husband. standing like the chairman of the Association of Useless Men, with three women clinging to him like raffia on village masquerade. The caption? Oh, the caption mocked her womb. Maazi funds and his sugar squat. Body no be firewood though. Not only one life we get. Her chest tightened. Not from heartbreak, oh, but from the urge to teleport into that photo and slap the wife out of him. She knew Chimezie was a woman rapper, promiscuous and unfaithful, a man who couldn't zip his trousers even if his life depended on it. But until now, she had never seen him so boldly entangled with his partners in crime. Yes, she had heard whispers, seen blog headlines about his nightcrawler lifestyle, always on one party or another, popping bottles like he owned the brewery. But this was the height of disrespect. There he was, clinging to three women and smiling like a Christmas goat that didn't know December 25th was coming. The women looked like they had just stepped out of a music video audition and failed. Their skimpy outfits left little to the imagination, exposing their hips that looked like broken Barbie dolls, exaggerated, lopsided, and stuck in a pose no one asked for. They all wore identical, disturbingly long bone straight wigs that flowed like overcooked spaghetti, eyelashes that could generate breeze, proper helicopter propellers, and claws of nails long enough to have their own zip code. Their makeup thick enough to withstand rain, sun, and heartbreak. The whole scene looked like a committee of Mami Water disciples on lunch break. Adaobi hissed under her breath, her lips tightening. No wonder Chimezie, that empty drum that always made noise, had finally found his flock. Birds of the same rotten feather, flapping their wings together in broad daylight. She sucked her teeth and rolled her eyes so hard they nearly saw her past life. With a tight face full of disgust, she skipped the post. But barely 5 minutes into her scrolling, the algorithm struck again. Another post. Another blow to the chest. It was from a podcast. One of those lousy Instagram influencer circles that gathered like loose wigs in the wind, discussing other people's marriages like it was a panel on Supreme Court life. See, last, Maazi funds must reach everybody. Oh. One senseless girl giggled, twisting her gum like it held the secrets of the universe. I mean, they don't call him D. Annie for nothing. Another one, with a voice like overused generator, chimed in. His wife self must understand now. He's a titled man, no. Ha. A man of his caliber cannot be tied to just one woman. I beg go. They cackled like cracked pots in an empty kitchen. She's not even fine, another said, her voice sticky with jealousy. The other two laughed awkwardly, but wickedly, like demons in designer clothes. I don't know what he even saw in herself. A fourth voice joined in, full of vinegar. That common village girl. Then came the final strike. Why would he settle for someone like her when he could have easily picked someone like me? I am the full package, oh. I can give him 30 children if he wants, as long as he keeps moving figures in my account and spoiling me. She flipped her weave dramatically, made a weird facial expression, then gave a knowing look to her co-conspirator. I'm telling you, oh, my sister, I'm telling you, the other replied, shaking her head like a gamma lizard. Then they hissed so loud that baby Ifro twitched in her sleep. Useless girls, she muttered, her voice dripping with contempt. Very stupid and jobless girls. She scrolled past the video like it was dry rag on a doorstep. This world wasn't just unfair, it was twisted. And worse, it was owned and run by men with money and ego of a wounded lion. A rich man could disrespect his wife, paraded his foolishness in public, and instead of shame, he received applause from people who worshipped his bank account like a shrine. Adobe shook her head. He can marry all of them if he likes. Build himself a football team of slay queens. I don't care. But deep inside her chest, the fire simmered. One day, like they say, 99 days for the thief, but one hot, thunderous day for the owner. Karma had no deadline, but it would never forget an address. She hissed again, not the light kind, but the full body type that came with squinted eyes and twitching lips. Then she got up and focused her mind on something that brought her joy, her craft. Adobe had been pouring all her energy into fashion design, sketching masterpieces with just a pencil, crayons, and paint. What began as a little online page had grown into a vibrant community. People praised this mysterious designer who drew emotions into paper, but no one knew the face behind the magic. Some clients even begged to meet her in person, but she always declined. If Ro was too little, too precious to live with anyone. So Adobe worked in silence, dressed her wounds with creativity, and ignored the circus that was Chimezie's lifestyle. But things only got worse. Yes, being Chimezie's wife felt like a lifetime sentence with no chance of parole. But what broke her even more were the sympathetic stares from strangers. Strangers who pitied her, people who didn't even know her name, yet signed with empathy anytime her husband trended for the wrong reasons. It got to a point where Adobe could barely step outside without someone inserting themselves into her private pain. At the market, at the salon, even at church, women would walk up to her with faces soaked in pity and voices dipped with condensation, offering their unsolicited 3 naira advice. Just be strong, okay? Be strong, my sister. Men are like that. Ah, you're trying, no. God sees your patience. Now the money they keep you there, be? Some even pretended to be kind. They smirked and say, she no mind though. Now money they there. If na me, I go still stay. Others will whisper behind her, thinking she couldn't hear. That is the wife of that Mazi Funds. She's just managing. Of course, she knows what she signed up for. Before Uncle. And it kept happening again and again, like a leaking tap that refused to be fixed. Adobe would smile politely, nod, and walk away with her chest tight and her dignity dripping down her back like sweat. She was tired of being the woman people use to measure patience, tired of being reduced to a walking cautionary tale, tired of fighting battles in silence while the world watched and clapped for her pain. No, she had reached her boiling point. Before she exploded, she needed someone to talk to. She picked up her phone, heart tight in her chest, and dialed Chinonsu, who came visiting the next day. See, all these rich men that think they can just do whatever they want, God will punish them. I say my God will punish them. Chinonso fumed, her whole body practically vibrating with rage. Amen, Adobe said loudly, like a prayer escaping her soul. What kind of useless man is this, Bikonu? Chinonso exploded again. Does he think he's untouchable? Ah, Chinonso, it's okay now. Adobe replied with a weak smile, trying to calm her down. It is not okay! Chinonso snapped, her eyes blazing. This is your marriage we're talking about here. Oh. How can you be this calm with a man who cheats like a hobby? Adobe sighed, her eyes heavy with exhaustion. My sister, it's not that I'm not bothered though. You know my stance in this marriage. I don't have the kind of background or boldness to stand up to him. I've learned to close my eyes to his nonsense. If he wants to scatter himself outside, let him do it. But now people are beginning to talk. Tongues are wagging. I can't even step outside without any woman walking up to me to give me that 2 naira opinion about my life. What kind of nonsense is this now? Her voice cracked slightly, her eyes clouded like harmattan skies. She looked away, ashamed of the emotion she had long buried. Then talk to him now. Talk to him. Chinonso pressed, sitting forward. So you just sit here and let him disgrace you? You just sit here and let him disgrace you like this? Talk to him, oh. I don't have a choice. Adobe gave a small but bitter smile, rocking Ifuru gently in her arms as she breastfed her. The baby sucked in peace, while the storm raged around her mother. You do have a choice, oh Ada. Chinonso's voice softened. What if, God forbid, he brings back HIV or one deadly STD? All these girls he's messing with, do you think they are clean? God forbid, Adobe grasped, fear slicing through her like a blade. Oh, now you're now saying God forbid, eh? Chinonso scoffed, shooting her a sharp look. Meanwhile, your husband is out there, collecting infection like philanthropic trophies. You better wake up, oh. You can't keep sitting in silence, like you're waiting for thunder to announce your pain. Adobe looked down at Ifuro, who slept peacefully against her chest, completely untouched by the weight of her mother's storm. I will try, she whispered, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. In which she did that same evening, and it went exactly as she had feared. Dimoma, she called out, commanding Chimezie's attention, as he had relaxed comfortably on the couch after dinner, watching a football match. It was even a miracle he was home today. Um, there's something that has been bothering me. Oh. I want to discuss it with you. Chimezie said nothing, but stared at her with a look that obviously prompts her to cut right to the chase. I, I, I have been I've been seeing some pictures online on the blogs about you and some women. Not very appropriate ones. As a married man, I'm not trying to control your life or anything. Oh. I just want to advise you to be more conscientious with the kind of people you meet. That's all. Oh, that's all. She spoke with so much fear, her heart beating like an equa. Adobe was practically shaking as she stood under his disapproving stare. Please, hear, hear me out, she stammered. For one good minute, Chimezie looked understanding. Or was he just processing everything she had just said? Because his calm expression quickly switched into something dark. What did you just say? He stood up like a hunter, waiting to aim for his prey. Adobe immediately started backing off. See this dirty girl where I picked for Umuomao, Chimezie yelled. So you are challenging me now, eh? You're using big grammar. Appropriate, contentious. I should hear you out. Hear you out. Hey! He burst out of laughter as Adaobi cowered in shame and fear. You are advising me as what? Eh? As who? Eh? No, talk now. Use your big grammar again. Big grammar wey you no sabi. You never even stay for city for less than 1 year. You dey form big girl. Appropriate. My friend, get out of here before I wash you hot slap. Village champion. Adaobi immediately jumped and ran to her room, shaking like plantain leaves. I have something to tell you, Chimezie mimicked. As a married man, appropriate, contentious, na contentiousness. If you try this thing again, foolish girl, nonsense girl, obodo nzuzu. Chimezie hissed and sat on the couch comfortably, continued watching his football match, while Adaobi was in her room, bawling her eyes out. She couldn't sleep a wink that night, thinking of ways she could escape this marriage, elope and leave Chimezie before he kills her. But the shrill cries of Ifuro snapped her back to reality. Realization hit her like a freight train. She could not leave him even if she wanted to. It was too late. She had already bore his child. How could she be so selfish, thinking she could leave her only joy behind for a horrible man? She had no one to run to, no money, nothing that could possibly raise Ifuro without the help of her father. No, she had to be strong for Ifuro. She had to get used to this life. There was no other way to thrive except in resilience.